Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Aditya here. In the previous video, we've wrapped up IAM section, right? Today, we'll start Amazon EC2 basis. If IAM is the security guard of your AWS account, then Amazon EC2 or Elastic Compute Cloud is the backbone of your computing power. EC2 is where real work happens, and understanding it is absolutely fundamental to mastering the cloud. Now we'll start with what is Amazon EC2. EC2 is arguably most popular offering from AWS. It stands for Elastic Cloud Compute and it falls into category of infrastructure as service IaaS. Since we know right we have different types of services, it falls into category where you have more control over the infrastructure. You can configure your servers, control to configure the hardware configurations here. So that much level of control usually infrastructure as a service will have. Now, if I say Elastic Compute Cloud, you can ask, what does that mean? It means AWS provides physical data center, the hardware and the virtualization layer. You get to rent the equivalent of virtual computer to the data center. So think of it like renting a remote computer that you have full control, right? So it's like renting virtual machines or renting some of your friend's laptop. If you remember in our childhood, we used to go to net centers where we will pay 10 rupees per hour to use that system for gaming, right? So that is the same concept. Here you are renting on demandly whenever you require. Now, EC2 mainly consists of four core capabilities. And first thing we have already discussed, right? That is renting virtual machines. Or in AWS terms, it is EC2 instances. These are your virtual servers, and the core of this service is EC2, like renting virtual machines. Second, storing data on virtual drives. So in AWS terms, we call it as EBS. So this is how you give your EC2 instances basic storage like a hard drive. Think of it like an laptop, right? In your laptop, you have your HDD. For EC2, you need some drive to store the data, right? To persist the data. For that, you use EBS. Next, distributing load, ELB. So this is called elastic load balancing, and these services like ELB, elastic load balancer, help spread incoming traffic across multiple virtual machines, ensuring your application does not crash from the traffic spikes. It's like if you are using multiple servers and multiple users using your servers to handle the traffic, you need something that will distribute properly the traffic, right? So for that purpose, you can use elastic load balancing or load balancing feature of AWS. And finally, auto scaling services. So the auto scaling group, there is a service called auto scaling group and which automatically adjusts the number of virtual machines based on demand. So for example, if your traffic is high and if you want to increase your virtual machines to handle the traffic, then you can use auto scaling group to increase that. Scaling up when traffic is high and scaling down to save money when it's low. So for that purpose, auto scaling group will be useful. And knowing these components is vital because they form the fundamentals of almost every scalable architecture on AWS. And the most important thing is EC2 is the fundamental building block for compute in AWS. So knowing this service is very essential. Now we'll see the anatomy of an EC2 instance or how to size EC2 and its configuration options. When you launch an EC2 instance, you are essentially picking out the components of your virtual computer, right? And you have several crucial options to configure. First one is operating system, OS. You choose the brain of your machine. So operating system is nothing but the brain, right? And this could be various flavors of Linux like Amazon Linux or Ubuntu, Windows, and even Mac OS instances. So whatever the OS you want for your particular computer, you can say EC2 instance. You can select among these three operating systems. And second, compute power means CPU, right? You decide on number of virtual CPU cores and raw processing speed and even memory RAM. How much random access memory does your application need to run efficiently? So these two configurations you can do by specifying the values. And third, storage space. You have a choice here. You can select network attached like EBS and EFS. So we will discuss about these things in deeply in the later sessions. So there are services like EBS, Elastic Block Service, and EFS like Elastic File Service. So we'll discuss it later. So these are like persistent external storage like traditional hard disks, right? And you can detach or reattach. These are network attached. Second one is hardware. Usually we call it as EC2 instance store in AWS. This is like temporary high speed storage physically attached to the host machine itself, physically attached to the EC2 instance itself. But data is lost when the EC2 instance is stopped. Obviously, right? If it is network attached, it is located in different location. But if it is hardware attached, it is attached to the EC2 instance itself. So data is ephemeral or temporary. You can lost it. Next, network. You configure the virtual network speed and if it needs a public IP address to be reachable from the internet. And firewall rules, usually in AWS we call it as security groups, which are nothing but the firewall rules. This is your virtual firewall. It defines what network traffic in the sense which IP addresses or ports is allowed inside or allowed out of the instances. So those rules you can specify. And finally, the bootstrap script. Usually we call it as EC2 user data. And this is small but powerful script that runs automatically the very first time of your machine starts. So whenever you spin up or you launch an EC2 instance, the first thing the EC2 instance will do is it execute this EC2 user data. So we will discuss about EC2 user data in the next slide, and which is a bootstrap script, right? Whenever you're booting an EC2, this script will be invoked, and this is only one-time activity when you are spinning up an EC2 instance. Now we'll see what happens while bootstrapping your instance, or we will deep dive into EC2 user data. Let's talk more about EC2 user data, and this is one of the coolest feature for automation. First, we'll think of what is bootstrapping, right? It means launching a series of commands when a mission first starts up to get it ready for work. Simply, you are launching a series of commands. And how it works? Here, you need to consider these key facts. This script, the EC2 user data script, is run only once at the instance first start. And these scripts runs with root user privileges. So, you provide a script, usually a shell script for Linux or PowerShell for Windows. When you launch the instance, the script is then executed only once at the instance very first start. Okay, and the power of automation is you can install software. So it will be used in installing software, like automatically install a web server like Apache or Nginx, and you can apply updates also, like applying updates, making sure the operating system is fully patched. And for downloading files, for example, if you want to pull common configuration files or application code itself from S3 bucket, right? You can use this EC2 user data script to do that work for you. And also it will come with root user access, as I mentioned earlier. Importantly, the EC2 user data script runs with the root user. In normal terms, we can say like administrator permissions. So it can do anything necessary to configure the mission. Finally, the EC2 user data feature allows you to launch a completely raw instance and have it become a fully functional either a web server or a database server or application host all automatically within minutes. So that's the advantage of using EC2 user data, and that's the power of automation it brings in. Here, the major key takeaways you have to remember is EC2 is nothing but your virtual machines, and which is infrastructure as a service. And you can customize CPU, RAM, operating system, storage, and networking as I mentioned in the previous slides. And it has the security group which will act as your virtual firewall, right? You have a security group and it will act as your virtual firewall. And this UC2 user data script, it's a powerful script for first boot automation. And EC2 is where you provision your compute power, and its flexibility in sizing, configuration, and automation via user data is what makes AWS truly elastic. In the next lecture, we will start diving into different types of EC2 instances and how you can choose right one for your application. If this overview of EC2 helped you, hit the like button and subscribe. See you next time. Bye.